Hello, it's Steve here, and today I am joined in conversation by a really special guest indeed, a rising star in Agile, a coach, consultant, and trainer, specializing in training in from the back of the room, has coached teams and leaders in some large-scale transformations like Sky, GSK, and the Royal Navy, and has the war wounds to prove it. Sorry, I had to say that. I couldn't resist that one. Someone I have admired from afar for quite some time is probably the most active person I know on LinkedIn, or maybe that's just the algorithm feeding me the best content. Rachelle Williams, welcome to the Agile Mastery Show.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve. What an introduction. I feel like I don't need to say anything after that.
Well, it's good. It's good to have you, and a warm welcome to you. So to start off with, I just want to explore your early career and and just to sort of get an understanding and an indication of how you became a coach and how you got into Agile and working with some of these big complex organizations.
Yeah, great question. So it all begun at university for me. So I studied business information systems at Portsmouth. And as part of that degree, I did a placement year at IBM, which was supporting consultants, just doing what they do, like doing lots of admin, that kind of thing. But I lived and breathed like the consulting world when I was there. Really interested by it. So that kind of like first trigger in terms of, oh, I want to go into consulting. And then also as part of the degree, learn about project management and agile as well. Initially wanted to be a project manager actually. So when I first went into consulting, got my graduate scheme, I followed the PMO route. So, did a few roles. So you mentioned Christie's, that was my first ever role, like my grad scheme role, doing a PMO role, supporting the teams there. And it was incredible. But the frustrating thing that I found about being a PMO was that was constantly updating 1,000 line plan, and it was constantly up to date, and it was all on me to like chase after all these people to go like, have you done this? You said you were going to do it by X date. Why is it not done yet? And everyone was always behind or changing dates, or we've actually moved things around. So the plan was just constantly out of date. And I was just like, why can't people update it themselves? Like, why is it one person responsible for updating this plan? And then yeah, my next role, or yeah, one of my first few roles, basically was meant to be a PMO. And my client turned around to me and was like, I want you to forget everything that you know about being a PMO, and I want you to be my Scrum Master instead. And that was basically my first Scrum Master role. So, did the training, and, even though I was like, a consultant to him, he was also helping me on that journey.
I relate it very much to transformation,
Mm,
but I think we are now very much, it seems, on the back foot for sure. Like there is a real it almost seems like we're back at the sales stage of
mm,
Agile,
yeah.
and it's not. For some reason, it hasn't properly landed. It hasn't properly, you know, organisations. Not everywhere. Some are still very much advocates still, but there are some. We seem like we're back at pushing water uphill,
Yeah.
fighting a battle, and I'm tying this back myself to project management is very much you have this plan, you have this structure, you have this setup where it's kind of that's how things work, or that's how we
Mm,
like it to work. So that's how we're going to keep it going. It's almost like we've gone back to that. What do you think?
yeah. So I think it's kind of got a bad name or bad rep because I think a lot of people have been burnt by it. Like they've gone like, oh, let's go Scrum, let's go Kanban. Like they've taken the framework approach, and just done it because they've been told to do it. Like
Or
leadership have
safe?
done it, sort of, yeah, or safe.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they've applied it in a way that's very like project management, as in like they've gone like, oh, we have to do all of this, so 1,000 line plan, we have to do all of this that's involved in safe, or all of this that's involved in scrum, etc. and then just try to like force it onto teams. And then a lot of teams and organizations have then just got burnt by that because it hasn't necessarily been right for them at that point of time, or right to like have all of it like as a whole. Whereas I think a lot of like the organizations that I work with, I try to take more of a methodology agnostic approach to being agile, like agile as the umbrella term, and then taking the bits of the frameworks that make sense for the context and just really being kind of context agnostic with them. And then I think that can help with the marketing around agile in kind of showing that, we're not going to throw it at you. We're going to kind of do it like, do the agile journey with you. So sort of like as a partnership. But yeah, you're right, are right in terms of we are having to go back to square one in terms of market it and position it, because a lot of organizations just have been burnt because they've just forced it onto their teams.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of organizations now on like their second or even third iteration of agile
Mm,
transformation, and
mm,
and I'm with you. I like to do that too. When working with a client, it's very much really taking that organic approach, and you have um, this, we're battling against, big consultancies who, have their playbooks and everything, and we come in with our very sort of loose and free and flexy kind of way
yeah,
of doing things. And but actually getting in first of all is the battle. Actually
yeah,
being invited in.
yeah,
I always say it's a Dracula. The thing is, you've got to be invited in, right?
yeah,
Um, and that seems to be the issue now. We're not actually, once you're in, you can actually then start tailoring it and working through that
mm.
yourself. But actually getting in, how have you found that yourself recently?
Yeah, like I think it is difficult. The market is tough out there. There's a lot of agile people kind of, struggling. And I've kind of recently been focusing more on training from the back of the room just because I've got my course coming up at the end of the month. So I haven't been looking as much recently for like agile kind of roles, but I'm sure when I do, it's going to be tough because a lot of people are struggling about out there. I've had a lot of conversations where, yeah, people just aren't finding the roles. And yeah, yeah, I'm not sure in terms of what the answer is to that. Yeah, I haven't found the golden bullet, but I guess I like to, the approach that I take to my agile roles is kind of more of a fractional kind of mindset, so that organizations don't need to, put like a massive hand in their pocket to like commit to like a big transformation in terms of like 6 months to a year with one full-time coach, which is therefore going to cost them quite a lot of money. Whereas if they take more of a fractional approach, like with agile coach like ourselves, then it means that, they can basically experiment with it. Like it's a safe experiment to
Mm.
bring in an agile coach, but not have the full commitment of someone full time. So that's kind of, I guess, my answer to it in terms of rather than fully committing to like a full time agile coach, try the fractional approach.
Yeah, so kind of like low risk,
Yeah,
um, and it's very focused, very targeted. So you would
yeah,
have like clear value outcomes. You say, well, I can work with you on a particular initiative and support you on that, and almost like, so it's some it is practical sales essentially.
mm,
Like you're
mm.
showcasing what capabilities you have, to then have deeper conversations or more long-term conversations that can then say, well, actually, we like how Rachelle's done that. Let's
Mm.
get them to do some more. We've got these other things, other problem pain points that we've got. So let's work with those.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because, when we are coaching clients, we do encourage them to do experiments like with their ways of working, try something. If that doesn't work, try something else. So I think actually, like the agile coaching world could actually learn a lot from taking that experimental approach with clients. So rather than clients having to, commit to something huge, actually see it as an experiment to bring us in. If that works, then lead to something else and then something else. And it just
Do you
becomes
mean
organic.
practice? Do you mean practice what we preach?
Practice what we preach.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
with an experimental test and learn,
Yeah.
try something small, break it down into small, manageable chunks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Funny that you say that because, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
because it is. I mean, we joke, but it is. That's basically how transformation has been for
Mm,
since we started in when transformation became a thing. It
mm.
was 18 months, 2 years, or you're on a 12-month contract, and it's 10 coaches. This is the thing. We're going to go big bang, implement safe or whatever. And then suddenly it's like 6 months down the line, it's like, well, why haven't we fulfilled what we expected?
Yeah.
Or why haven't they fulfilled what we expected? And then suddenly the budget holders are then asking questions,
Yeah.
serious questions.
You've hit the nail on the head completely there, because I've definitely been part of transformations where the transformation has been treated like a project management exercise. They've had like fixed scope, fixed plan, like we'll roll out X amount of teams and they will do Scrum, and they'll using Scrum they'll roll out XYZ. So there's like a whole list of basically a project management approach to the agile transformation. And then us agile coaches are there trying to be agile, but actually we're pushing against this fixed scope that we need to deliver to the teams. And then yeah, it's unsurprising that it comes up with a clash.
Yeah, it does. It makes no sense. But then is it because of going back to that project management um, philosophy? More like a kind of just a way of working
Mm,
that organizations are used to that function and structure, that setting up a transformation typically by a transformation director, but somebody who is a project management, uh, or has that experience, that suddenly, or the transformation is structured around project, like it being a big project as a result.
yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. In terms of, it's unsurprising because that's just what they know and what they're used to. So if they're if they haven't done the agile transformation yet, so all they know is project management, so they're going to treat the agile transformation like a project management initiative. So yeah, it's full sympathy for them in terms of that it's all they know, so they're just doing what they know ultimately. So I guess it's our, as agile coaches and as the agile community, it's our world to try to help people shape their agile transformations differently, and being comfortable with taking that fractional experimental approach. So not having all the answers up front and learning as you're going, and then committing to the transformation later once you've learned from it.
Right, right, and that I think is 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 basically the it needs to be the new way. We need to have a reset of how we do
Mm,
this, so that when people say, I've had conversations recently. People say, oh, we need a rebrand, or we need, you know, I've worked with some, a couple of mentors who said they can't use the word agile in their with their um, teams and things and their leadership, because it's just got such a bad name, as you mentioned.
yeah.
And I don't think we should almost like lie down to this kind of stuff. It's almost like,
Mm,
well, we're kind of accepting it. It's going, well, okay, maybe then we do need to rebrand. So no, actually, it's still relevant. It's still powerful. It's still as useful and as essential for
mm,
organisations as it has ever been. And so, rather than us focus on rebranding or having a complete shift in change, we need to look at how do we I like that, break it down into experiments, small
Yeah.
pieces that we can then scale or more transformational, 3, 6 months down the line,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Although I would say as well to the kind of the agile piece. So you mentioned the Navy, like a past client I had. So we didn't often use like the words like agile or the terminology that came with it because so a lot of what they were already doing just come like inherently with the way they work. Like they would meet daily and discuss what they were going to do for
Mm,
the day. They didn't call it a stand up, but like they
mm,
just call it like the daily meet or whatever. So we did need to kind of adapt our language to say that actually like recognize what they were already doing, and so like meet them where they're at and then improve from
mm.
that point, rather than going like you have to do a stand up, which actually they're already doing a stand up, it's just not called that. So yeah, sometimes like it is okay to kind of just meet them like with that language in terms of like what are they already doing and how can you improve from that point.
Yeah, meet them where they are. It's the Kanban philosophy. Absolutely. It's and you know that's quite early on, Rochelle, right? For you in your career to really understand that and learn that, um, that's what's really needed. So kudos to you for that, for sure. But you're absolutely right. Go in and I mean, I used to be a real purist, right? That was my thing. I hold my hand up. I used to be real, like, shove it down the throat. Why aren't you doing this? I've got a whole army behind me will back me up here. That this is how you've got to work, and it, of course, gets everyone's back up, and they resist it and they push away. And I got burnt myself quite a lot of times. But learning that meeting them where they are is absolutely exactly where what we should be doing. Is it's like having real empathy to what they're
Mm,
having to deal with, and then spending some time just really just working with them, and yeah. So
yeah.
how did that work then? How did for you, like, what were the real wins that you got from that approach?
Yeah, so I guess one thing that I quite like to do with clients to meet them where they are is do some form of health check. So the Spotify one I use quite a lot because they've got really nice cards and you can do it in person, like just print the cards and then do it on the table with some post-it notes or online on a Miro board and just like, move them around based on what you kind of want to have a conversation of. And I find that exercise really powerful to just kind of, yeah, see where they're at, see what they think they're doing well at and where they want to improve, because then those improvement areas identify those experiments, those things to go after first, rather than like throwing everything at them. Just go, okay, they want a improvement cycle, so let's introduce retrospectives, or just like finding those small like wins that you can after go first, and then they're much more likely to come back to you more and more, because then they kind of feel that energy of going like, oh yeah, we achieved that one thing, so let's achieve something else, and it becomes more on them rather than like us like throwing at them.
So like a momentum thing. You're
Yeah,
like small wins. They see
yeah.
the value. They like what you're doing because of that. Almost. I mean, it's not passive. It's rather the opposite of passive. It's very active, but um, it's not forceful. You're
Mm,
giving them. It's like teasing with little things that they can be doing, bite-sized chunks, and that they can actually get loads out of it. And from the Royal Navy. So you're talking about a really a historically hierarchical structure, um, very complex organization to be working within. How did you find that?
yeah, yeah, obviously they've got a lot of ways of working that've just been inherent in terms of the way that they do things. And actually a lot of what they did was just agile, because they when they're on the front line or whatever, they have to just respond. Like they can't just like they'd have a phrase of like, was it failed to plan, like
Fail to
I
plan
can't.
and plan to fail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So fail to plan, plan to fail. So as in, it's really important to like do that planning, like to have an idea of like, what they're going to achieve, so i.e. their sprint. But ultimately, like whatever happens, they need to be able to adapt and respond to in the moment. So yeah, they were, they just really did get it in terms of just adapting, and were quite passionate about like finding ways to improve. Like it was just in their nature.
Hmm. Yeah, I did some work with the military, and yeah, I got accused once because I live in Brighton. I got accused of
Ah.
um, that we're just a bunch of hippie flip flop wearing hippies or something, and like these agile lot, from like Royal Navy captains,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
incredible. But actually, you're seeing more and more. I mean, there's the Turn the Ship Around book by
Yeah, yeah, I
David
love that
Marquette.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the Have you heard of the Saab Gripen story about how they implement Agile with the fighter jet engineering teams and that kind of
No.
stuff? So
Mm.
there is definitely a need more and more about how we can adapt Agile into any organization and
Yeah.
any system,
Yeah,
So
yeah, because it's not IT. Like when I went into that role, I realized that it was like the first role that I was in that wasn't in the IT space as well. And it really, I was there for a year, and it really did prove that actually Agile can move outside of the IT space. It doesn't have to stay in IT, because that's kind of where it was born. And, there's been lots of like, oh, but Agile's for IT or whatever. But actually, like, yeah, the Navy proved that no.
But it's funny enough, it still gets that kind of assumption, doesn't it? That it's a software
Mm,
thing. Still, we still have to battle it. Let's take a slight pivot here, and ourselves, right? We can
mm,
pivot. Um, so there's one thing I really notice about you on LinkedIn is that you're always out there, you're always active. There's always a workshop going on, training going on, but
yeah.
you're physically in the room. It's like it's inspiring for people who are stuck at home like myself, who are literally on remote working all the time. Um,
Mm.
is that something intentional for you? Do you feel as though that actually, certainly since we had lockdown and things, it's become more and more of a need. But what's it been like for you in terms of just getting out there and being feeling that need?
Yeah, yeah, it's been very intentional. So I kind of thrive off other people's energy. Like kind of if people have high energy around me, I will absorb it, and then I'll have that high energy. Whereas if I'm sitting here all day, every day, just like me at a screen, like yes, I can, absorb it a little bit through a conversation, but it's just not the same in terms of like person to person in the room together, like having that energy. So yeah, it's been very deliberate for me, just putting myself out there. And actually, it came from advice from someone like, a fellow mentor who said, running a business is hard, being self employed. And ultimately, you are running a business. And yeah, their advice to me was just get out there, like, don't spend all day, every day just at home, like working on your laptop. Like try to actually have like coffee meetups, like if you can't get to events, or yeah, networking events. And yeah, there's nothing quite like just being in a room with people. Like you mentioned you lived in Brighton. I'm off to Brighton next week actually, which obviously won't be relevant to this podcast when it comes out, I'm sure. But yeah, doing the Lean Agile Brighton meetup events. I'll be speaking, like facilitating a workshop for those guys.
And I think we'll have to rush the podcast out to get you on it, so we can promote it. Um, no, brilliant. I've already registered for that actually.
Mm,
So I'll try and come along. No, but you're absolutely right. With regards to just being in the room, I think it's on a deeper level the need to
mm,
be working with people, and you lose body language.
yeah.
There's a real um, like you say, it's energy, isn't it? It's energy. You can sense if things aren't landing so much easier, especially if people haven't got their camera on.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're having to battle that challenge. But if you are in the room with them, you can really sense the energy and
Yeah.
actually do something about it. Like get everybody to stand up and do a quite a couple of minutes of like energizer. It's
Yeah.
powerful stuff. You know,
Yeah, because if you're facilitating a workshop, you can tell very quickly if you're in the room, like whether they're ready to move on, like and
yeah,
adapt it and find a different activity. Like one I facilitated this year, I just kind of looked around the room and realized, oh, everyone's done. Like I, allowed X amount of time for it and then just added in another activity just because like I could just sense that they're all done and there was no point staying on this activity because they'd just get bored. It was better to add something else in on the fly to keep the energy up because otherwise I would have lost them. Whereas if you're there on a screen facilitating a workshop, like it's very hard to it's very hard to kind of get that same feeling.
do you think with that knowing, I mean, you are a testament to the need to have regular uh, physical but in the room
Mm, mm.
events. Do you think that we're really losing our way a little bit?
Yeah.
Organizations spreading out, everyone seems to be remote nowadays. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really hard because there there is a hard balance of it because like, I like to exercise, so I like to run and go to the gym and stuff. So the whole working from home movement, I did really appreciate because suddenly I could, train for marathons again because I suddenly had so much more time. I wasn't commuting. So I absolutely do stand by the fact that working from home gives you that extra balance that you just wouldn't get if you're in the office every day. Like, I do stand by the fact of like having that balance is really important. But I think like seeking opportunities to connect and have intentional connection as well. So not just going into the office. So like I've heard of companies mandating that people go into the office at some point, like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or whatever. But then it's kind of like if you go in on Tuesday and then I go in on Wednesday, what's the point? Like, we've missed each other. So actually having people to come into the office for intentional things. So come in for workshops, like maybe mandate that there has to be like one workshop a month or something, or something. So they're actually coming in for an intentional thing rather than just being there. Um,
Yeah, like I mean, the mandatory thing is something that doesn't quite sit right for me because it's about the
mm,
organization, not about the human.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's we need to be focusing, don't we, on people, what people need, and the reasons why it's important for them, and focusing on that rather than it being a corporate driver. Um, with, I mean, your point around ensuring that you have these regular coming together workshops. If people are going into the office and spending all day on Teams, it kind
mm,
of defeats the object, doesn't it?
yeah,
Like I had a thought a while ago about isn't isn't some of the work that we do, or perhaps a way that we can help organizations restructure the office so that
yeah,
it does become much more workshop driven. Like
yeah.
you are there to interact and solve problems, and that it's you've got like whiteboards all over the place, and it's less desks.
Yeah, but and yeah, it's the lost the way thing because like thinking back to the early days, like when I was at GSK, I remembered as part of the agile transformation there, they were redesigning the office and they were making sure that teams were sitting together because before they used
Hmm.
to have like one role here, role somewhere
Hot
else, and
desking.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So they weren't actually co-located, even though they were in the same office building. So, like, as part of that agile transformation, they really made an effort to like make sure teams sat together and then had wall space. So the backlog, before Jira was like a massive thing, the backlog was on pieces of brown paper on the walls, and we were moving post-it notes around.
Mm.
And yeah, that does seem to have disappeared a little bit, because yeah, you're right in terms of, like, I've been in clients where, yeah, the mandate was to come into the office, and then you come in and then just sit there on your desk all day, like on Teams calls, because it's a global
Mm.
company and you've got people here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, that is the big challenge. I mean, if you're a company that has, multiple locations in multiple countries,
Mm,
um, and also because of COVID, it's almost like we just forgot that teams need to be very close together, and we just said, well, we can go anywhere now. We can source skills from all over the world, which is great,
mm,
but it has to have limitations, and it's almost as if there is budgetary issues with getting people to fly over and be in the same room as people regularly, which is what they need.
yeah,
That it's almost been missed,
yeah.
that or sidestepped for the sake of maybe a budgetary thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's such a shame with the budgetary thing as well, because when they do get budget, it tends to just go to the leaders rather than like having budget for teams to come together. Like, it will just be for leadership to have, like, some sort of offsite somewhere. So it's like, if you are going to get budget, try to get budget like for certain teams, including the leaders. So it's the teams and, top down and bottom up coming together to really truly collaborate. Like, some of the best cross team retrospectives that I've facilitated have the leaders and the teams like all together, mixing up those teams in the room, co-creating something and like leading to change together. Like, it really is empowering when you see everyone at all the different levels coming together and achieving something collectively.
So, do you think that we have an obligation as coaches and consultants who sort of sit on the outside looking in? Do we have an obligation then, do you think, to really raise this need, the importance of being in the room, to getting teams together, even if they're located all over the globe, that there is a
Mm,
real that that the the balance or the imbalance of budget versus
yeah.
convenience, um, or actually the value, should we say, of getting people to fly over. Like, do we have an obligation to really focus on what that can really do for a team and an organization?
I think so, absolutely. So that's exactly what I did for my last client organization. Like, I noticed that the teams weren't getting together and the teams weren't getting together with the leaders. So I suggested this cross team retrospective as an idea. It had never been done before. And, I brought everyone together kind of in the UK to facilitate a cross team retrospective across leaders, like managers and team members. And it was really empowering to kind of see that. And because that went so well, they then flew me to Brno, so to their other offices. So rather than sort of flying people around, they flew me to them so that then I could facilitate another cross team retrospective for different teams coming together. And it was, like, the teams really appreciated getting the opportunity to be with leaders in the room to actually, be heard, and identify those actions and drive those actions forward.
With you facilitating it and
Yeah.
driving it, and actually, so
Yeah.
you've got a powerful case study there, that
Mm,
um, if leaders and senior leaders were actually able to see the value of it and to really sort of see how it can work, then they might start to think differently, and we can help bring it all together. Um, yeah, but I think it's certainly something that we should really be looking at. Like, just getting uh, to you're like the inspiration of getting people to together regularly. It's
yeah.
important. Should we talk about training from the back of the room then? We've mentioned it a few times, and
Yes.
for those who don't know what it is, could you explain what it is, what it means, why it's important, what
Hmm.
value it can give. How is it different? A few questions there, but I'll let you get into it.
Yeah.
And how
So
did you get into it as well?
yeah, so training for the back of the room, so to start from there, I got into it because of it was agile coaching, agile facilitation training with AWA. So I see Agile and Sharon Bowman, who's like who created training for the back of the room. They had a really kind of close, like kind of the communities came together. So naturally, doing that course, so the IC Agile course, they recommended to do training for the back of the room. So it was always on my list to do, and then finally did it because I deliver as an Agile coach. I deliver training quite regularly. So what is Scrum? Like what is Kanban? Like continuous improvement. So I'm always designing mini training sessions for my teams based on what they need at that point. But I wanted to design it in a way that's like more collaborative. And training from the back of the room is that. So it's making training or workshop facilitation as well much more learner led. So it's like the phrase we like to use is moving away from being that sage on the stage. So PowerPoint behind you, throwing information at people, to being the guide on the side. So you're guiding the learners to learn their own information. So not just relying on you, they're also relying on each other to connect with each other, connect to the topic, and then go on a learning journey together rather than just having it like loads and loads of information put on slides and just thrown at the audience. Which, we've mentioned SAFe, that was style of their training.
Yeah, it haunts me from being at school and just being dictated to and just
Yeah,
having to write loads of notes.
yeah,
So so I like that. So it's basically you're a guide from the side. You're facilitating the learning
hmm,
based on what they need at the time, rather than it just being like this is what just basically being driven from the front.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so so, so what? How is it different in terms of learning outcomes? Like, do you have any specific kind of differences in terms of how learners or students will feed back to it? How being different for them?
Yeah, so learning outcomes is a really big piece of training for the back of the room. So before you do anything, before you create any content, we recommend to start with the end in mind. So start with the learning outcome. What are they going to get from it? And the outcomes should be written in a way that they're going to do this. They won't just understand. So understand is like the worst word to use for learning outcomes, because so what? Like, yes, they understand it,
Mm,
but so what are they going to
yeah.
do with it? So they're going to be
Hmm.
able to design something, they're going to be able to create something, they're going to take away this, like more like actionable kind of words in the outcomes, so that they actually do, so that the outcomes lead to change. It leads them to do something differently. And training from the back of the room uses 6 brain science principles, so based on how the brain learns, to make sessions more engaging. And aligned to those principles are a range of tools and techniques that facilitators or trainers can use to make their sessions more engaging. And then using those tools and techniques, they then create a 4Cs plan, which is how they're then going to deliver it. So that only then will they start to then think about what the content is. And the content really is only a small section of the whole plan. They should be thinking about what tools and techniques are they going to be using to make it more engaging.
So they themselves are finding the materials and the information.
Mm,
They get a problem to solve, and they are responsible for then going to source that
mm.
information, and then you're guiding it and facilitating it, and almost being like a coach
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah.
help them to bounce ideas off of, and this kind of thing.
Yeah, because we recommend pair shares and like groups of fours to work together on like a
Hmm.
an activity. So that's going to be much more powerful than like by them talking to each other and thinking through things than me just talking at them the entire time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and obviously, from myself with a big ego and likes the sound of his own voice. this is something that is a bit of a step to move
Mm.
away from, So a bit of a challenge for me, for sure. And
I'm sure you
how
can
did you
manage it.
find it in terms of the way that you're used to training, or you're used
Mm.
to learning in a certain way? How did you find the transition yourself?
Yeah, I just thought it was absolute genius. Like, so when I attended the 2-day practitioner course myself, so before I became a trainer, it was like one of the only training courses that I've stayed like attentive the entire 2 days. Like often like my brain will just start thinking about other things, but I was like fully switched on to the entire 2 days because of the way it's like delivered and designed. Like the training for the back of the room course is designed using its own techniques. So like literally we practice what we preach as training for the back of the room trainers. Like what we're teaching is what we use to design the course. And yeah, for me it was just an absolute no-brainer. Then when I started to then apply it to my own like agile like trainings or facilitation as well, because then it then just became so empowering to the group of people, thinking back to what I mentioned at the start, like I like to empower people to have their own experience. It just then felt natural to me to then go, oh, okay, it's not all about me. It's about them owning their experience, like their learning information. And I'm just guiding them to like have their own light bulb moments and their own kind of aha moments.
Because they're the ones that are going to land and stay
Yeah.
with them, right, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Once they've come up with that, that's it. You're done. Your work is done, kind of thing. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Okay. Um, just finishing off, then we're just going to wrap up here, and I mean, it's been an amazing conversation. Like
Mm,
some real fascinating insight and discussions. Um, I feel like we're onto something about how we help organisations here, like in
mm,
terms of uh, the ones that are disparate and spread out all over the place, the one, and also the bite size chunks, the transformation, but done in such a way that it's very, very much piecemeal. Or you start small. Let's look at something very, fractional, as you
hmm
mentioned. So these kind of things, I think, are great. Get people in the room more often. Um, Excellent stuff. So, um, where can people find you? I know that LinkedIn, obviously, but where's a good place for people to? How can people get in touch? And
Yeah.
also, what have you got coming up that people can get involved with?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, LinkedIn is sort of, I guess, my main playground. So Rachelle Williams on LinkedIn. I do have a website as well, so www.fanelprojects.co.uk, which I'm sure we can link up. And in there, it
Hmm.
mentions kind of my training courses that I've got coming up. So I've got training from the back of the room coming up at the end of November, like my next public one. And then my next one after that will be in 2026. So I'm looking around sort of June time. So, people can reach out through my website or LinkedIn to basically get on the waiting list for that. So once it's announced, I'll let people know. But I'm also toying with the idea. I've been doing an intro to TBR session recently for organizations. So I've been taking it in. There seems like quite a bit of interest for people, individuals to sign up. So um, people can like I'm creating it as we speak on my website, creating a bit of like a waiting list for that to see, maybe I might do like a public webinar on the intro to the principles. So yeah, my website and LinkedIn are the best places to go.
Yeah, it's a great thing because I think if you did a webinar, then it kind of gives people a bit of an understanding of it before they can actually say,
Mm,
well, actually, that's something that our that we can utilize that or learn, get our people learned and signed up to it. Excellent stuff. You mentioned about Race Across the World
yes.
beforehand. This is an idea, or we wanted to talk about Race Across the World as an idea a concept that you're thinking about. Let's wrap up with this idea. What are you thinking, Rochelle?
Yeah, so yeah, my crazy idea that I have at the moment is based on the Race Across the World live experience that I did for my birthday recently. And basically, what it is you go across London through WhatsApp. You get text like with information and then a question, and then you have to solve clues based on things that you find in the streets, but also things that you find like in bars as well. So they might give you a puzzle to solve. And what I loved about it was a really brain friendly experience. Like the entire 3 hours that my husband and I were taking part of this experience, like we were so switched on to the experience of like solving these different clues. You know, some were us just looking at the walls, and some were us like actually using physical things to solve a puzzle. And I just thought it was absolute genius, and it very much links to the training from the back of the room, the stuff that I do in terms of being brain friendly and the way that we learn. And you know, linked to what we've talked about as well around getting people to come together is really valuable. And if you work, you know, if you're a solopreneur or work by yourself, sometimes you might be working from home a lot. So my crazy idea is to maybe organize like groups of people coming together, or individuals coming together to form groups of people to actually take part in these experiences. So like the Race Across the World experience, there's a couple of them in London, but there's also other city days and things that they do. So yeah, that's kind of my crazy concept that I've been toying with at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's based on the TV program
Yeah.
Race Across the World, which is about people who are given a certain budget and they have to get to different locations and solve their own problems in that regard. Absolutely love it. I'm going to keep an eye out for it, and I think
Yes.
what we can do is maybe come get you back on for a second record once that idea
Yeah.
has borne some fruit, and we can talk about it in a bit more detail.
Yeah. Watch
Rachelle,
this space.
excellent. Rachelle, thank you very much for coming on and giving us your wealth of experience and knowledge and ideas. And it's been really fascinating to talk with you. And we hope to see you very, very soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thank you.